Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always?
Today, we're taking a look at the world of programming.
Yeah.
But we're going to be focusing on two specific concepts, subroutines and functions.
Oh.
Okay, so last time we left off talking about parameters.
Right, those little pieces of information that functions and subroutines need.
Yeah, like ingredients in a recipe.
Exactly. And just like you can adjust a recipe,
By adding more or less of certain ingredients.
parameters let you customize how functions and subroutines work.
Okay, I'm starting to see the connection.
So imagine you have a function called draw square.
Draw square.
You could use it to draw squares of different sizes
Oh.
by passing in a parameter for the side length.
Oh.
So if you pass in the number 5,
The function would draw a square with sides of length 5.
exactly. And if you pass in 10, you get a bigger square.
So one function, but different results depending on the parameter.
That's the power of parameters. They make your code super flexible.
I like it. And the source material mentioned data types again.
Yes. Data types are important when it comes to parameters.
Because you can't just pass in any random piece of information.
Right. You have to make sure the data type matches what the function or subroutine is expecting.
So if a function is expecting a number,
You can't give it a word.
like trying to bake a cake with salt instead of sugar.
Haha. Exactly. It
Yeah.
just wouldn't work.
So parameters are placeholders for specific types of data.
Precisely. And that data gets used by the function or subroutine to do its thing.
Okay, I think I'm getting the hang of this.
Good. It's like learning a new language, right?
Yeah, kind of, but it's actually starting to make sense.
Awesome. That's what we like to hear.
But before we move on,
Yeah.
there's one thing I'm still a bit fuzzy on.
What's that?
How do programmers actually define these parameters?
Good question. It can vary a bit depending on the programming language.
Oh, okay.
But the general idea is that you specify the parameter names and data types.
When you're writing the function or subroutine,
Exactly. So when someone else wants to use your code,
they know exactly what kind of information to provide.
and in what format.
Yeah, this is all starting to feel like a really well-organized system.
It is. It's all about structure and clarity.
And the source mentioned something about personal preference.
Yeah, when it comes to choosing between subroutines and functions,
There's no right or wrong answer.
not necessarily.
Yeah.
It often depends on what you're trying to achieve.
And your personal coding style.
Exactly. Some programmers might prefer functions for their modularity.
Modularity.
You know, how they can be easily reused in different parts of the program.
Right.
While others might prefer subroutines for breaking down complex tasks
So it's about finding what works best for you.
and for the specific project you're working on.
This is so cool. I never realized there was so much flexibility in programming.
There is. It's not just about following rigid rules.
There's room for creativity.
Absolutely. And that's what makes it so fascinating.
Okay, I think I'm ready for the final part of our deep dive.
Are you sure? We could stay here all day talking about parameters.
Maybe another time.
That's good. Lead the way. Okay, so we've talked about subroutines, functions.
Parameters, data types.
Right. All these essential ingredients in the programming recipe.
It's like we've built up this whole toolbox. Yeah, full of tools for organizing and manipulating information.
Exactly. And now it's about understanding when to use which tool.
And that brings us back to that key difference between subroutines and functions.
Yes, the return value.
It's like the function is saying, hey, I did the thing, and D, here's what I found out.
Exactly. That return value is like a little nugget of wisdom.
Which can then be used to make decisions.
Trigger other actions.
Even be fed into other functions.
It's all connected. It's like a chain reaction.
And the source material gave a great example of this, remember?
The function that checks if a file is valid.
Right. It returns either true or false.
And that tiny piece of information determines what happens next.
Stick a fork in the road.
Choose your own adventure based on that true or false value.
The program takes a different path.
It's amazing how such a small thing can have such a big impact.
It is. It's like a domino effect.
One thing leads to another, and another, and another,
And it all starts with that initial function call.
setting the whole chain of events in motion.
It's so cool. I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together,
That's the beauty of programming. It's like a puzzle,
where each piece has its own unique role to play.
but they all work together to create something amazing.
And the source also made a point of saying that there's no one right way to do things.
Yes, the personal preference factor,
Some programmers might prefer functions.
while others might lean towards subroutines.
It's about finding what works best for you.
And for the project at hand,
So even with all this talk of logic and structure,
there's still room for individual expression.
that's pretty cool, actually.
It is. It makes programming more human.
Less like just cold, hard instructions.
Exactly. It's a blend of art and science.
And that's what makes it so fascinating.
It's a field that's constantly evolving.
Always new challenges to tackle.
New problems to solve.
And new ways to express yourself through code.
It's really quite amazing when you think about it.
You know, before we started this deep dive, I had no idea what subroutines and functions even were.
But now you're practically an expert.
Not quite. But I definitely have a much better understanding.
And that's what matters.
Right, it is. It's all about expanding our knowledge.
And seeing the world in new ways.
And I think this deep dive has done just that.
I agree. It's been a journey of discovery.
Not just into the world of programming,
but into the power of logic, efficiency, and problem solving.
Skills that we can all apply to our everyday lives.
Exactly. So next time you're faced with a challenge,
think like a programmer.
Break it down into smaller steps.
Define your parameters.
And create a plan of action.
You might be surprised at how much easier things become.
It's all about approaching problems in a systematic and creative way.
And who knows, you might even discover a hidden passion for programming along the way.
You never know. It's a world full of possibilities.
Well, folks, that's it for our deep dive into subroutines and functions.
Thanks for joining us on this adventure.
We hope you learned something new.
And that you'll keep exploring the amazing world of programming.
Until next time, stay curious
and keep coding.